There's a number circulating in the electric vehicle world that has provoked intense reactions among those who follow the sector. That number is $15,000. When such a figure appears linked to the Tesla name, something immediately awakens in people's minds. It's a mixture of surprise, hope, and distrust, all happening at the same time. After all, for years, buying an electric car meant shelling out amounts that scared even those with good financial reserves. And now, suddenly, the promise of an affordable Tesla emerges. The Model 2, positioned as the vehicle that would finally open the doors to electrification for those who have always been on the outside of this conversation. To understand the impact of this value, one only needs to observe the reality of the current automotive market. A used car in the United States costs, on average, between $20,000 and $28,000. A brand new economical sedan easily exceeds $22,000. And any electric car below $30,000 used to mean a simplified model, without relevant features, or belonging to a brand without a track record. Given this scenario, a functional Tesla for less than $15,000 would represent a genuine breakthrough. It would be the first time that people with tight budgets, especially retirees living on fixed income, could see a real path to enter the world of electric cars. However, there's a detail, music, that needs to be stated with absolute clarity before any excitement takes over the purchase decision. The sticker price is not the same as the cost of ownership. The value that appears in the advertisement is what you pay only once at the time of signing the contract. The true cost, on the other hand, is everything that continues to come out of your pocket month after month, year after year, for as long as the car remains in the garage. And almost always, these two numbers tell completely different stories, with the second story usually being much less encouraging than the first. Another fundamental point in this analysis concerns the very confirmed existence of the Model 2 with these characteristics. To date, Tesla has not released official specifications. There is no published battery size, no confirmed range, and no finalized list of versions. All that circulates at the moment are estimates based on leaks, projections built from the company's cost structure, and analyses by experts attempting to predict the most likely path. This means that anyone interested needs to treat this information as a probable scenario, not as a defined product, avoiding pitfalls that often appear between the initial announcement and the actual moment of sale. For those who depend on retirement, pension, or government benefits, music, this precaution is invaluable. Decades of work cannot be jeopardized by a number that still fluctuates between rumors and promises. Before even thinking about pre-ordering, before clicking on any suspicious link that appears on social media, it is necessary to apply a clarity test regarding this opportunity. The Model May 2nd even prove to be an interesting alternative for certain profiles, but the purchase, music, decision must stem from each viewer's personal budget, and not from the enthusiasm generated by a catchy headline circulating on the internet without any direct verification from the manufacturer itself. For Tesla to put a car on the road for under $15,000, it needs to cut costs somewhere significant. And the most likely place for that cut is precisely the most expensive component of any electric vehicle, the battery pack. Current estimates point to a capacity between 40 and 50 kilowatt-hours, probably using lithium iron phosphate chemistry, known by the acronym LFP. This technology trades maximum energy density for a much lower cost per kilowatt-hour and offers a longer lifespan in charge cycles. It's a logical choice for an entry-level product, but it comes with practical consequences that few buyers usually consider. With this estimated capacity, the actual range under normal conditions should be between 230 and 260 miles per full charge. For most drivers, this number seems more than enough. The average American drives about 37 miles a day, which means almost a whole week of typical use before needing to find a charging point. In mild conditions with pleasant temperatures and planned routes, this range provides real peace of mind for everyday use. The problem is that normal conditions don't exist year-round, especially for those who live in regions where winter arrives in full force and turns every trip into a risky calculation. Imagine a 71-year-old retiree living in a cold city, one of those where the thermometer reads 14 degrees Fahrenheit on a typical January morning. This gentleman isn't concerned with acceleration from 0 to 100 or engine power. What matters to him is whether the car will be able to take him to a cardiology appointment 38 miles from home. And here a technical fact emerges that all battery chemistry shares to a greater or lesser degree. In freezing temperatures, the range plummets, potentially dropping between 20% and 30% of what is described in the manufacturer's catalog, transforming the comfortable calculation into something much tighter. Applying this reduction to an estimated range of 250 miles, that leaves something close to 175 to 195 miles on a really cold morning. The trip to the cardiologist remains manageable, but the safety margin is much slimmer than it appeared in the promotional brochure. It's not a situation that makes the car unusable, but it's a reality that needs to be considered before signing the contract, especially for those who depend on the car for medical appointments, family trips, or long commutes during entire months of sub-zero temperatures. Ignoring this factor means discovering the problem only when it's already ingrained in your routine. The financial consequences of this equation go beyond an uncomfortable winter morning. A battery that degrades rapidly, losing capacity below 80% within 3 or 4 years, along with it, reduces the resale value of the entire vehicle. Someone who paid $15,000 and needs to replace the battery pack prematurely faces a bill that can range from $8,000 to $15,000, depending on the model and parts availability. The alternative is to accept a much lower replacement value, reflecting the compromised condition of the main component. For those living on a fixed income, neither option offers comfort, and both need to be considered before any final decision is made about this purchase. There's a category of expenses that often goes completely unnoticed at the time of purchase, but which becomes fully apparent a few months later, when the car is already parked in the garage, and there's no going back. These are the monthly costs, those small leaks in the budget that seem insignificant in isolation, but which, added up over the years, can transform a seemingly advantageous purchase into a real financial burden. And the first of these leaks begins with the item that literally touches the ground, the tires. Electric vehicles are naturally heavier than equivalent combustion engine cars, precisely because of the battery pack installed in the lower part of the chassis. This extra weight, combined with the instantaneous torque delivery from a complete stop, generates much greater pressure on the contact area between the tire and the asphalt during each acceleration. The practical result is simple and direct. Tires wear out faster than on a conventional car of the same size, requiring replacements at shorter intervals. And this higher frequency, distributed over 5 or 6 years of use, represents a cost that no one mentions during the product's sales presentation. The crucial question in this story involves the type of tire the Model 2 will require. If Tesla opts for a standard size, easily found in any popular tire shop, the replacement cost is between $600 and $900 for a complete set. But if the vehicle needs a specific tire for electric vehicles with low rolling resistance and reinforced construction, this value quickly rises to between $1,000 and $1,400. And even then, with limited availability in many regions of the country. This difference, multiplied by the necessary replacements over time, becomes a concrete problem that directly affects the wallet of anyone who intends to keep control over their monthly expenses. Based on this, it's necessary to add another layer of cost that has been scaring electric vehicle owners across the American market. Insurance. Insurance companies have been charging significantly higher premiums to cover electric cars, and the reason is purely mathematical. It's not that these vehicles are more dangerous to drive. The real reason is that they cost much more to repair when something goes wrong. A simple side impact that would cost $600 on a gasoline car can reach $2,500 or more on an electric car, especially if the affected area is near the battery management system or reinforced chassis structures. This increase in the insurance premium is not symbolic. For someone currently paying $110 a month to insure a combustion engine car, finding a quote $60 to $80 more expensive per month represents a very real difference. Spread over 5 years, this difference adds up to between $3,600 and $4,800 additional dollars that don't appear anywhere in the $15,000 advertisement. And the most troubling detail of this calculation is that this extra amount can partially or totally negate the savings generated by the absence of fuel, which was precisely the strongest financial argument to justify switching to an electric car. Before closing any deal, calling the insurance company and asking for a specific quote is the smartest step anyone music interested can take. There's a scenario that perfectly illustrates the third major hidden cost of buying an electric vehicle, and it happens during an absolutely ordinary moment in daily life. Imagine someone pulling out of a parking space at a supermarket on a random Wednesday afternoon. Another driver, distracted, bumps their car against the front side of the Model 2 at low speed. Nothing serious, just a discreet dent and a few visible scratches on the paint. In a traditional combustion engine car, this situation is resolved with a visit to the mechanic, an estimate between $400 and $700, and the vehicle back in the garage in a few business days without major complications for the family budget. The same scenario transferred to the world of electric vehicles can end very differently than expected. Depending on the exact location of the impact in relation to the battery's protective structure and the front shock absorption zones, the repair estimate can reach $4,500. This is not a matter of the vehicle's build quality, but rather a reality linked to the very functioning of this type of car. The repair requires specialized equipment, technicians certified to handle high-voltage components, and parts that are often not readily available in most traditional repair shops across the country. The situation becomes even more complicated when the accident site is far from major urban centers. For those living in smaller towns, rural areas, or vast areas of the American interior, the nearest authorized Tesla repair shop may be 90 miles away. This means the car needs to be towed, generating an extra expense just to get to the repair location. And once delivered, the vehicle may spend a whole week or more waiting for service, depending on the repair queue and the availability of specific parts. This pattern is not speculation, but a documented reality for current owners of electric cars spread across different regions of the United States. The service infrastructure for electric vehicles is still largely under construction across the country. In large cities near metropolitan centers like Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, and Miami, service availability has grown considerably in recent years. However, in rural areas, in small towns in the Midwest, the South, and more remote regions, this network remains scarce. There's a practical question every interested party needs to ask before signing any documents. If the Model 2 needs a non-emergency repair tomorrow, what would be the actual distance to the nearest service point from their current residential address? When that distance exceeds 30 or 40 miles, the situation ceases to be merely a logistical detail and becomes an uncomfortable dependency in one's routine. It means needing to ask family members for rides, hiring private transportation services during the repair period, and hoping to avoid important commitments that week without the vehicle. For someone who values the independence gained through years of work and doesn't want to depend on others to resolve basic transportation issues, this distance becomes a quality of life variable that needs to be factored into the purchase decision. It's not just about money spent, but about lost time, disrupted planning, and compromised autonomy in unforeseen situations that arise without warning. Before signing any contract, making any pre-order, or expressing any enthusiasm for eye-catching advertising, there's a list of 6 questions that need to be answered with real numbers, not optimistic assumptions. The first one directly addresses where the car will sleep every night. Is there a charging point at home? A garage with a suitable outlet? A private space where recharging happens while the car sleeps? Or is the total reliance on public charging stations scattered throughout the city? This difference is enormous because charging at home costs a fraction of the price charged at public charging points, in addition to offering complete control over time and availability. The second question involves the climate of the region where the vehicle will be used for the next 5 to 7 years. What is the coldest temperature frequently recorded during the winter months? And most importantly, has a calculation been made of what a 25% reduction in range would represent for the most common family commutes? Those who live in regions with harsh winters need to simulate this scenario before buying, considering medical appointments, visits to relatives in other cities, and any trips that exceed the reduced mileage margin during the coldest months of the year. The third question deals with insurance in a direct and practical way. It's not enough to imagine an approximate value or accept a generic estimate found on some comparison website. The necessary step involves calling your current insurance company, requesting a specific quote for the Model 2 and noting the exact amount presented. After that, simply subtract your current premium from this new number and multiply the difference by 60 months, which corresponds to 5 years of use. This simple calculation reveals the real cost that insurance will represent over the ownership period, allowing you to compare this difference with the expected fuel savings. The fourth question involves tire wear and the availability of replacements. How much does a complete set of tires for the Model 2 cost according to the technical specifications Tesla will require? And more importantly, is it possible to find these tires in popular city stores, or will it be necessary to resort to a specialized supplier, which is generally more expensive and has longer delivery times? The fifth question complements this practical investigation and concerns the exact distance between the residence and the nearest authorized service point, considering that repairs to electric vehicles cannot be done in just any neighborhood workshop. The sixth and final question is perhaps the most important on the entire list because it deals with the current situation of the person considering this trade-in. Is the car currently in the garage fully paid off? Is it running reliably without constant mechanical headaches? And what is the real monthly cost of keeping it running, including fuel, insurance, and routine maintenance? Comparing this honest number with the realistic monthly cost that the Model 2i proceed a lot of things if I want to do would represent is the exercise that separates a rational decision from an emotional one. Those who can answer these 6 questions with concrete data have the necessary information to make a confident choice. Those who don't yet have these answers are simply not ready to buy regardless of the size of the discount offered. After all this detailed analysis, there are 3 possible paths regarding the arrival of the Model 2, and each person needs to honestly identify which of these 3 groups they fall into before making any final decision. The first group consists of those who should seriously consider this purchase. These are people who drive mainly on local routes within their own city or on short trips without long interstate journeys planned. They have guaranteed access to a charging point at home with an appropriate outlet and available private space, and are currently dealing with an older vehicle that has already begun to experience unpredictable mechanical problems and recurring repairs. For this specific profile, the Model 2 at a price below $15,000 can represent a concrete financial improvement in the monthly budget. The 6 questions presented earlier need to be rigorously applied, and if the resulting numbers from this exercise truly fit within the available budget,